Once upon a time, there was a hare. His name was Hare the rabbit. He lived outside of town and did not keep a steady job, instead just taking whatever job he could get. He lived next door to a family of pigs, and he was friends with the piglets. The most exciting thing that happened in his life was a race against a tortoise, at least until a month later. That month later, the pig kids were leaving their home to seek their fortune in the world, and Hare told them his story of the race. So there I was, next to Timmy the tortoise. When go rang out, I was running forward, easily on my path to winning the race, when suddenly some thugs jumped me. They dragged me, struggling with all my might, and locked me in my house and barricaded me in through the night. They thought I would be trapped in there while Timmy could just waltz to the finish line, but I broke the window and ran at them with the only weapon I had, a carrot. They never knew what hit them. I beat them up, dragged them to the police station, and then rushed back to the race. Timmy was one step away from the finish line, but I crossed it before he could put his foot down. He denied all allegations of cheating, of course, but I knew what he had done. As the oldest piglet, Bob, walked out of the house, he pondered the story. Something didn't seem quite right, but he pushed it out of his mind and thought about how best to spend the bag of money he had been given. He invested it in the stocks of some lemonade company and then decided to investigate Timmy the tortoise. He looked up his address and knocked on the door. A few minutes later, the door was answered. "Hello," said Timmy. Bob said, "What really happened on that race a month ago?" Timmy pointed to an article in the back of his house, framed newspaper article, and said, "Read." Bob read. The headline read, "Slow and steady wins the race. Tortoise beats hare in day-long race." According to the article, Hare had actually left the race to go shopping and sleeping while the diligent tortoise had walked through the night and won. Bob hurried out to tell Bacon and Pork Chop about it, and then that evening, they confronted Hare. Bob started, You lied about the race. I read a newspaper article that says you took a shopping break. You can't just make up stories." Bacon and Pork Chop broke out in a chorus of agreement before Hare replied, "Well, you see, Timmy, the article is a lie. Timmy cheated. See, he had connections with top government officials," and Bob had heard enough. As he walked out the door, he said, "Why don't you just tell the truth for once?" The next day, Hare found that he was low on money, and as much as it pained him, he was going to have to get a steady job. He headed into town and soon found a job as a waiter. The previous waiter, a wolf by the name of Fido, had actually gotten angry and beaten up some customers. At the end of Hare's first day of work, he walked out the door, only to be face to face with an angry wolf. Fido raged, "I'm gonna get even. If people aren't gonna give me money, I'm gonna take it from them." But please, I'm penniless. I got this job because I don't have any money." Looking around, Fido said, "Well, there's too many people here anyway, but I'm gonna rob some of those houses outside of town. Then they'll pay." He shoved Hare to the ground and stormed off. Hare quickly got up and ran back to his house, looking over his shoulder the whole way. That evening, he called Bacon, Pork Chop, and Bob to his house to warn them. "There's a wolf. He said he's gonna rob houses outside of town. You're right in his danger zone." Bacon, the youngest piglet, said, "I don't believe you. I've heard better stories from my video games. Speaking of which, I gotta get back home." He rushed out the door. The next pig, Pork Chop, just laughed. Ha ha ha. Even gullible little Bacon doesn't believe you, and neither do I. He lumbered out the door, slamming it on his way out. Only Bob was left. He said, "Well, I don't believe you, but it wouldn't be any harm to buy a shotgun." He hurried out to town and did just that, leaving Harry alone with his knowledge. The next day, on his way home from work, Harry decided to stop by Bacon's house to play some video games, but he found that all that was left of the house was a few pieces of straw ground into the dirt. He hurried to Warren Porkchop, who just laughed again. "You're just trying to get me out of the house. I don't need exercise. I don't want exercise. I just want to eat my chips in peace." The next day, Harry tried to warn Porkchop again, but he found that all that was left of his house was a pile of sticks. He hurried to tell Bob, saying, The wolf! I think it got Bacon and Porkchop. They're gone." "The wolf? He got them? They could have believed you if you hadn't told that lie about the race. Because you told the lie then, nobody believes you now." Harry opened his mouth to object, but then realized Bob was right. He made his way home in shame, endeavoring never to lie again.